Hello everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck centered around Mega Audino EX from Fates Collide. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. But anyway, like I said, this deck is centered around Mega Audino EX from the newest set, Fates Collide, and I will be the first to admit, when I first saw this card had come out, I immediately wrote it off as being about as competitive as Mega Audino is in competitive Pokemon. And for those of you that don't really play competitive Pokemon that much, Mega Audino is kind of horrible. I mean, it really doesn't do anything. It is outclassed by anything and everything that does a similar job to it. And so I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, this card is not very good at all. So I didn't even bother trying to make a deck with it at first. However, I was perusing the Charizard Lounge trying to find some deck ideas for some new decks and stuff like that, and I came across a set review of Fates Collide. So I was like, you know what, let's just look through it, see if there's anything that I may have missed, and I saw a review on Mega Audino. Now at first I wondered why would they bother doing such a horrible card, because I mean it really wasn't, at my first opinion, it wasn't worth that much, because I just saw the 3 attack cost and 110, and Mega Manectric does as much damage for 2 energy and it has an incredible effect. So I immediately just wrote Mega Audino off. However, as I read the card review, I realized that, well, I didn't realize, I read that somebody compared it to the old Darkrai's Night Spear, and it basically called it a Night Spear on steroids. And Night Spear did 90 damage and 32 a bench. Audino's attack does 110, and if you played a supporter that turn, which you almost always do, it does 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's basically a better Darkrai. I mean, admittedly, it doesn't have the acceleration from Dark Patch, it doesn't have Dark Cloak and stuff like that, but it is bulkier and hits for more damage. So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, let's just give this a shot, see how it does, and I was actually shocked at how good Mega Audino is. I'm not saying that it's going to be super competitive, but it does have great matchups against some of the top tier decks like Trevenant and Night March. So, I mean, it's got a niche, definitely. But anyway, on to the deck. I'm running 3-3 of Audino and Mega Audino because, I mean, we're going to be attacking with Mega Audino and pretty much Mega Audino alone. I mean, you could attack with the bats, but I know that other people have come up with ideas. I decided to pair it with bats just because I really liked the sniping potential of Mega Audino, and the fact that if you get you can potentially hit for 100 damage to a benched Pokemon with Audino, Golbat, and Crobat in one turn. So I just loved that potential and decided to pair these guys up. You can definitely try something else. This is just what I decided to try. So 3-3 of Audino and Mega Audino. Audino also has do the wave, 60 plus 10 more for each of your bench Pokemon. So, I mean, it can potentially hit for 140, but you really just want to attack with Mega Audino. Running 2 Shaman. I could run 3, but I decided to cut down 1 Shaman just because I wanted to get a few more cards in the deck. You could definitely do another Shaman in lieu of a Super Scoop Up or something like that, but I decided to go for 2, and it's worked out wonderfully for me. 1 Hoopa to get all of our EXs out, only running 1. Could run 2 again in lieu of a Super Scoop Up or something like that, but I just kind of liked the little bit thinner line of Shaman and Hoopa just because it allows you to run more items that could potentially be useful. And then the bats, I'm running a 4-3-2, again a kind of peculiar line, but I have loved this line ever since I used Jed Andruzik, I think that's his name. Ever since I used his Raichu Bats deck that had this line, and so I'm just sticking with it because it works and it's actually pretty cool. On to the items, I'm running a single Mega Turbo. This would probably be the card that I would say is the most replaceable in this entire deck if you want to run another Shaman, another Hoopa, another Super Scoop Up. But I have run into instances where I have an Audino that is not powered up at all on the bench, and in one turn, well, Mega Audino because you have to have a Mega in order to use Mega Turbo, but I had a Mega Audino on the bench that was not powered up at all, and in a single turn I was able to slap a DCE on it and then play Mega Turbo to get an energy onto it, and then I was able to just immediately Magical Symphony for 110 damage and 50 to a bench Pokemon. So I just like the option that you have with Mega Turbo, so that's why I'm only running 1 of those. 1 Super Rod to get everything back, 3 3 super scoop ups to bring up Shaman, bring up Hoopa, bring up a line of bats. I mean, really, whatever you want to do with super scoop up. I mean, even if Mega Audino is damaged, you can super scoop up that too. This card is just great in this type of deck. 4 Trainer's Mail to help with consistency. Again, I'm going to be using 4 Trainer's Mail in pretty much every single deck. 4 Ultra Ball to get everything out, and especially in this type of deck, an Ultra Ball can turn into like 4 different Pokemon because you Ultra Ball for a Hoopa, then you grab a Shaman and an Audino and like another Audino or another Shaman. It's up to you. 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters because Audino's attack does require that you use a supporter each turn, so being able to reuse all of your 1-ofs is pretty awesome. And then as for the supporters, I am running 4 1-ofs just because you don't always want to go for a draw supporter, like if you have a thin deck or a good hand or something like that, but you still want to be able to Magical Symphony, then going for one of these other supporters could potentially, well, I mean, would give you that extra 50 damage to the bench. So running 1 AZ to pick up a line of bats, pick up a Shaman, pick up a Hoopa, any of those. 1 Hex Maniac, just because, I mean, it kind of slows down some decks, and you don't want to use it until after you've used all of your abilities because, I mean, 4 of our Pokemon have abilities that this deck relies on, and so you want to wait to use Hex Maniac, but that is a great just kind of tech to have in the deck. Additionally, it helps take out Carbink with Safeguard, so that's just something to look at. 1 Lysander because Lysander is fantastic, and I wanted to run a couple other supporters. That's why I'm only running 1 Lysander. 3/3 Aventon Sycamore. That is a great line, and, well, I wouldn't say it's a great line. It's just a line that has served me well, and so I'm sticking with that. 1 Pokemon Center Lady. I'm only using this because, I mean, I've encountered a couple situations where I don't want to use a draw supporter or anything else, and I wanted to heal up Mega Audino, so Pokemon Center Lady is just a supporter that you can use to heal up Audino a little bit and use a supporter for the turn. You can definitely get rid of it if you want. However, I just found it is very useful to have in some situations. So that's why I opted to have that card in this deck. And then 1 Skyla to grab an Ultra Ball, a Spirit Link, Skyfield, whatever you need. Skyla is just a great way to be like, you know what, I want to use a supporter, and I don't really want to draw or discard stuff, so you know what, I'll just Skyla for something that could help. As for the stadiums, I mean, because Mega Audino is a normal Pokemon, it can't really benefit from any particular stadium, because, I mean, Aspertia City Gym got rotated out, so I'm running Skyfield, just, I mean, maybe help Audinos do the wave, but, I mean, let's be real, you're probably never going to be attacking with that. So, I mean, it's just great to play Skyfield down, play Hoopa, Shaman, a bunch of bats, and a couple Audino, and then when your opponent inevitably counter stadiums you can discard your Hoopa and Shamans, just get them off the bench to where you don't have to worry about them anymore. We're running 3 of the Audino Spirit Link because we're running 3 Mega Audino, so you really don't want to run more or less. And then 4 DCE and 4 regular Psychic Energy. You can tinker with this line if you want. That's just a line that I have kind of liked and decided to go with. But anyway, I'm done rambling. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Tinkerbell. I guess that's like the Apple Store Tinkerbell, maybe, or something like that. I really hope I didn't just commit copyright infringement for saying that, but we do lose the coin flip. That is a bit unfortunate because this deck does like to, I guess we're going first. I mean, I was about to say that this deck really, really likes going first, so you really don't want to have to go second. I mean, there's really no benefit to going second at all in this deck, and I start with you know what, I think I can work with this. So I have 2 Audino, I have a Skyla that I can grab an Ultra Ball, I draw a Spirit Link. Let's go ahead and play that there. Skyla for an Ultra Ball to grab a Hoopa. Yes. And then I think I'm going to discard the Golbat and Crobat to grab a Hoopa, to grab like a, couple Shaman maybe? Oh, wow, I have 2 Zubat Prize. That is unfortunate. But I'm going to go ahead and play the Skyfield down there, play the Super Rod there, put those guys back in the deck. Play the Audino down there, play the Hoopa. I'm kind of hoping that I can get some Zubats up. That way, when my opponent discards Skyfield, I can discard the Hoopa. But I'm just going to grab a Mega Audino, a Shaman, and yeah, you know what? Let's just grab another Audino. Why not? It's something that fills up bench space and is something that we could potentially use later. So let's just go ahead and grab one of those, play the Audino down, and then Shaman. Hopefully draw a couple bats at least. I mean, I just want 2 of them. That way, Hoopa at the very least can be discarded Only draw one, but you know what? I can actually really work with this hand for next turn. My opponent does have a Spritzy on the bench that I will be able to knock out with a Magical Symphony next turn when I go for the N. And while I kind of wanted to Ultra Ball for another Zubat, it's not the end of the world. I can just end next turn, even if my opponent does get rid of my Stadium. Like, my deck really does not rely that much on having Skyfield in play, so it's not that big of a deal. My opponent does get an Aromatisse, however, that Spritzy does have 50 HP to where it will be knocked out by Magical Symphony. Up there we see the Stadium countered. Again, not a big deal, and oh, that's a big deal. My opponent just Lysanders in my Hoopa. That's unfortunate, so I will have to get like an AZ or some way to get Hoopa out of the active spot in order to be able to knock out a Pokemon this turn. I am just going to go ahead and play the Mega Audino down there. I draw another Ultra Ball, play the DCE there, go for the N, get 6 more cards, hopefully get something. You know what? I think that's good enough. I mean, assuming I can hit heads, that is. Let's go for the Super Scoop Up, and oh, that's perfect. Sweet, so we get Hoopa out of there, we get the Mega Audino down, go for Trainer's Mail, see what we can get, and we get another Skyfield. That's good enough. Just going to go ahead and counter my opponent's Stadium. I have no need to play it this turn, but I just wanted to get rid of Fairy Garden. Go for a Golbat, put some damage onto the Gardevoir, go for a Magical Symphony, hit the Gardevoir solidly, and knock out the Spritzy to where my opponent will not be able to go for the Aromatisse next turn. And oh, there's the AZ. I mean, it really didn't end up mattering because I was able to get a Pokemon. Well, I was able to get a Super Scoop Up anyway. And my opponent plays another Gardevoir. So, okay, we got the Mega Gardevoir there. I wonder what my opponent is going to do. Attaches another energy. I will be able to knock it out this turn anyway, so... Oh, next turn. So he would have to get a Fairy Garden in retreat in order to be able to do that, but... Okay, my opponent does just get a Sycamore off that. I mean, I hated to end to get my opponent some more cards, but I don't think that'll be too big of a deal as my opponent did have a very, very slow start. And we had a pretty great start. And okay, my opponent does just retreat into the Gardevoir, but what I think I can do is, how much HP does the Mega Gardevoir have? Okay, so it has 80 left. Yeah, 210 minus 130 is 80. So what I can do actually is Skyla for an Ultra Ball to grab a Crobat, put the 30 damage onto the Mega Gardevoir on the bench, and then knock it out with Magical Symphony. Do I want to get rid of N or AZ? You know what? I think N's going to hurt me a little more, so I'm going to go get rid of that. Grab a Crobat, evolve the Golbat, play that down there, put 30 damage onto the Mega Gardevoir, and then go for a Magical Symphony and knock out the Mega Gardevoir with sniping damage. And you know what? This really is Night Spear on steroids. Wow, that was really awesome. I mean, my opponent retreated his Mega Gardevoir that had 80 HP left, and we were still able to knock it out with a Magical Symphony. Well, Magical Symphony plus Crobat. So, looks like we are just in a great position overall. My opponent will Pokemon Fan Club. However, I'm able to put on enough pressure to where he cannot get a Spritzy out. Otherwise, it will just get KO'd. I mean, by Magical Symphony. So he will not be able to use any of that Fairy Transfer at all. And I think that is an excellent thing for us to do. My opponent does play down a Xerneas. What I can do, play a DCE there, play a Zubat there, go for a Trainer's Mail, see what I can get. Let's grab another Audino Spirit Link, play that onto my other Audino, get it powered up and ready to go, just in the weird case that this Mega Audino goes down, play the Shaman down again to draw some more cards, and now Magical Symphony is powered up. Get a Super Scoop Up, see if I can get the Crobat. No, I don't. Oh well, not a big deal. We do get a Mega Audino, so let's go ahead and get one down, play the Trainer's Mail. What do I want to grab? You know what? I'll just grab another Audino. No, Sycamore. That way I have guaranteed draw next turn. I can just play the Golbat down and then draw and whatnot. And go for a Magical Symphony, knock out this Gardevoir EX, go down to 1 prize, and then put some damage onto... What do I want to put damage on? I think... Yeah, let's go for the... Swirlix. That way I can knock it out with a Golbat next turn if my opponent doesn't evolve. I even get a Hex Maniac and an N. I mean, I don't need the N at all. It would actually really, really hurt me. But I think I'm in such a good position at this point that it doesn't really matter. I'll be able to knock out the... Even if he evolves into a Slurpuff only has 90 HP, so I'll be able to knock that out with a Magical Symphony next turn, unless my opponent has like an N and is able to keep me from getting a supporter next turn. If he does, we could see that. And okay, my opponent does just go for a Lysander, but I do have a VS Seeker for an AZ. Yep, I do have the AZ there. And my opponent just Geomancy, so I mean, it's pretty much GG at this point. I mean, I could just play the Golbat down and end it just by knocking out the Swirlix, but where's the fun in that? Let's just go ahead and take 2 prizes, even though we only need 1, with Magical Symphony from Mega Audino, because Xerneas has 130 HP, and I can get the damage from Crobat to where it only has 110 HP left, and then I can knock out 2 Pokemon with Magical Symphony for the game. I mean, completely unnecessary, but you know what? If it's Mega Audino going to town, we might as well just let it do its thing and just stay out of the way. But yep, we do win. Thank you, Mega Audino, for being so awesome. It was able to just come in, snipe things. I mean, Night Spear on steroids. That's really what it is, and it's very, very good against decks that have low HP Pokemon that it relies on, like Night March or Fairy decks or stuff like that. Although I think this deck would struggle against some of the big EX decks, as it would rely on 2-hit KOs, especially against things like Garchomp and stuff like that that would be able to knock out Audino in 1 hit before it would be able to knock it out. But anyway, let's just go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found one against Dragon King 213, and is that Night March? I mean, usually you see Shaman with Night March, but it might just be a very streamlined version with just like Joltik, Mew, and stuff like that. Could also be budget Night March, or it could just be like Manectric Bats, and we do lose coin flip. Oh, that is a bit unfortunate, meaning we will not... Okay, so we get to go first twice after losing 2 coin flips. I can guarantee that will never happen again, and... Okay, this is Night March, and we start with a Zubat. That's not the best, but I do have something that I can potentially work with, especially if I'm able to Trainer's Mail and grab an Ultra Ball. That way I can get a Hoopa and stuff like that. So let's see what I can get off of that. And we get nothing. That's, well, I mean, the Hoopa's there, but unfortunately we can't get it. So what I'm going to do is play the energy onto the Zubat to be able to manually retreat and maybe grab a Mega Turbo later in the game. But I do get the Hoopa off the draw, so that's pretty solid. I will be able to get Shaman, Audino, and Mega Audino for next turn. Be able to evolve, and I kind of wish I had held on to the energy at this point, just because then I would have been able to play it on Audino. But, I mean, it's not a big deal per se. What I can do is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Crobat and the energy, maybe? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that just in case, just so I can have a guaranteed Mega Turbo target. Grab another Zubat, and even if I do get a Super Rod or something like that, I can still just Super Rod back in Zubat, Crobat, and 1 energy and still have 1 in the discard pile, 2 Mega Turbo later, and... Okay, I get something that I can kind of work with, especially because, yep, there's the Super Rod that I was just talking about. So I think I'm in a decent-ish position. Crobat and energy in there, so if Zubat gets knocked out, I will be able to get a Zubat and Crobat and 1 energy while still having an energy in the discard pile for next turn. And do I want to retreat or do I want to keep it on there? You know what? Let's just go ahead and... maybe, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. The Zubat's probably going to go down, but I will be able to Super Rod some stuff back in next turn and also still have an energy in the discard pile for Mega Audino, so I think we are in an okay position. And this is actually an excellent matchup for us because Audino, well, Mega Audino, with Magical Symphony, if we play a supporter, can knock out a Joltik and a Mew. So basically, you can take 2 prize cards in a single turn with Audino, and potentially even more with like Crobat and Golbat and stuff like that. So this is actually the matchup that I think Mega Audino would best be able to shine in, particularly with its HP being so high. You would have to have, how many, let's see, 220, so you'd have to have 11 Night Marchers in the discard pile in order to be able to do that damage. So you'd have to attack with a Mew and have your very last Night Marcher on the bench, meaning that if he was able to do that this turn, then as soon as I got a Mega Audino up, I'd be able to just snipe out that last Night Marcher, and the Mew would be pretty much useless. Just because, I mean, Mew can't do anything for Night March if it doesn't have a Night Marcher on the bench to be able to attack. So I think, okay, there's a Battle Compressor. So, I don't know, this Zubat is pretty much guaranteed to go down this turn. But I think I'm still in an okay position-ish, maybe? I don't know. Well, it depends on if I'm able to get like a Mega Turbo and a DCE next turn. But that's really what it comes down to. I think I'm still in a decent position regardless. Looks like my opponent doesn't have much. I mean, he's going to go for an Ultra Ball right now. But we know because he doesn't run any normal types in his deck that he doesn't run Shaman. So I'm guessing that because he discarded the Sycamore that he has a VS Seeker in his hand. So he will be able to... Okay, he plays the Dimension Valley down. And then, do we see the VS Seeker? Is it his last card? Yes, it is. So Sycamore will be able to get him 7 new cards. But what I like about facing Night March without Shaman is that your opponent, more often than not, has to waste their supporter for the turn on drawing rather than Lysandering. I mean, that's where Shaman comes in. It allows you to draw cards without needing to use your supporter, so you can use like a Hex Maniac or a Lysander or something else like that to be able to disrupt your opponent in attack. And okay, my opponent just retreats into a Pumpkaboo maybe. Okay, never mind, he does have the DCE, meaning that this Zubat will go down, unfortunately. But you know what, I can just send my Audino, or no, Zubat, because I have the Golbat for free treat, and then I can just do whatever I want. Let's go ahead and play the Mega Audino down there. Put the Golbat down there. I'm thinking I want to put damage on the Joltik just so I can knock it out with like a Magical Symphony if he can get a Fighting Fury Belt on it or something like that. So that's where my damage is going to go for the time being. Going to go for an end this turn. I kind of want to... You know what, I'm going to save the Super Rod for a little bit later and... Okay, I don't get a DCE. That is very, very unfortunate, but what I can do is go ahead and play the energy onto the Mega Audino for next turn, put a Skyfield down there, and then I think, you know what? I think I'm just going to retreat my Golbat for this turn because Mega Audino can guaranteed take a hit. My opponent has 2 Night Marchers out, so he would need to get all 10 other of his Night Marchers into the discard pile and get a Muscle Band in order to knock out my Mega Audino. So I think it is safe for the time being, and especially because Night Marchers run Fighting Fury Belt over Muscle Band now. So I think, even though I'm going to take a good amount of damage right here, I think I'm still in a pretty solid position regardless. Actually, if my opponent doesn't get another Pokemon down and I can get a DCE and a Crobat, I think I win. Actually, if I can just draw a DCE somehow, I can Skyla for the Ultra Ball to get a Crobat, knock out the Joltik, and then that will have been my supporter for the turn. So if I can get a DCE somehow, I can knock out the Pumpkaboo and the Mew in one turn and take a 3-prize turn against Night March, something that they really cannot come back from. Night March is reliant on winning the prize trade, like taking one, like you take 1 prize against them, they take 2, you take 1, they take 2. But if you're able to take more than 1 prize in a turn against Night March, they really have trouble coming back from that. So, okay, my opponent does just play down a DCE onto the Joltik. Even if I can't get a win this turn, I think I'm still going to knock out that Joltik with a Crobat just because it... I mean, that'll be a double, or that'll be a DCE gone and something that he will not be able to get back. And I have a predicament right here. Do I want to Lysander up the Hoopa, or not Lysander, AZ up the Hoopa to grab a Shaman and another Audino, or do I want to Skyla for an Ultra Ball to grab another Shaman? I mean, okay, you know what? I'm just going to fish for it. Ultra Ball for the Shaman. That way I can get 5 more cards down, get rid of the Golbat, and probably the Lysander because I have sniping damage. I don't really need the Lysander in this situation. Grab a Shaman. Probably just play the Audino Spirit Link down on, you know what, let's just play it on Hoopa just because. Draw 5 cards, hopefully get a DCE and a means of finding a Crobat. If not, we are Well, maybe I can Super Scoop up a Shaman. Yes, I do get that, so I will be able to pick one up and then draw some more cards. I'm going to go ahead and play the Crobat down there. Just knock out the Joltik for the time being. Guaranteed get that gone. And then draw a card and up. There's the DCE. Okay, we win. There's nothing my opponent can do. I was able to take 3 prizes against Night March in 1 turn. Gonna play down the Shaman just because, get some more cards, and you know what, let's just end this right here. 110 to the Pumpkaboo, 50 to the Mew, and we took 3 prizes in 1 turn against Night March, and we're able to take the game with that Magical Symphony. I mean, that's the power of Audino. I mean, my opponent probably thought that, oh, I don't need to bench anything else. I have 2 on my bench, 1 active. There's no way my opponent's going to be able to knock me out. Well, he'll be able to knock out my Pumpkaboo, but even if he snipes something on the bench, he will not be able to win the game this turn. But with a Crobat, I was able to take out a Joltik, and then with Magical Symphony, I was able to take out both a Pumpkaboo and a Mew. So Audino, for me giving it 0 credit, it is actually a pretty cool deck, and I could definitely see it making somewhat of a splash. Not really a tidal wave, but more of just a solid ripple is what I think it's going to make on the competitive scene. But anyway, that is the deck, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.